Good day there, Matthew. Now, a wireless power startup says it can charge your phone using only radio waves. That's really exciting, isn't it?
It is, and it's something that's been around for a long time. I remember reading articles about this concept many years ago, and I used to think myself, if we can have enough power in the air to give us data, Wi-Fi for example, or radio or TV, maybe we could have enough power in those radio waves to actually power something. But when you start increasing the power output, you start increasing the risks to humans. So it's something that's been toyed with over the years, but it's never actually gotten to the point where it's been successful. But this particular startup has got to the point where you can hold a light bulb within about, say, 3 metres of their power source, and the light bulb will light up. Now, obviously, you're not going to use it to power lights, but it's just a demonstration of the fact that they've got power able to be transmitted over that distance. Of course, we've got wireless chargers with mobile phones now, where you sit it effectively against the charger, so they're within a few millimetres of each other. And this is extending that concept, and they're using very short wavelength and high power short wavelength, still not at risk to humans because it's non-ionising radiation, but pretty exciting in having the ability to bring a device into a room, and that's their aim. Have, for example, your ability to bring a mobile phone into a room, and that will start charging up once it's in that room. We're not talking about transmitting over kilometres of distance, we're talking about over a few metres, but that's pretty exciting. So this is actually going to be demonstrated at CES in Las Vegas, which starts in the next couple of days, and there'll be some people there who'll be interested in that, and I hope there'll be some manufacturers who jump onto it and say, let's start manufacturing this and get it out there in the real world.
He had this concept in mind going back then, didn't he?
Yeah, look, Tesla was way ahead of his time, and in some respects, a lot of Tesla's concepts are just being caught up to with the manufacturing process now, and this is where I think we're at with this particular concept. It's now at the point that we can manufacture some of the things that have been theorised over the years.
Yeah, very true. Well, products get better and better every year, and over time they just get amazing. Samsung has detailed a stunning new bezel-less 8K TV. Now tell us about that.
Yeah, we only just started talking about 4K recently. It seems like such a quick step to start talking about 8K.
Yeah.
Still, most of our programs are only transmitted in HD, and obviously you're getting some now. You see some on Foxtel, for example. A lot of the sport is transmitted on 4K. In Japan, they've just started transmitting some programs in some TV stations on 8K. So 8K TV seems like they're way ahead of their time, but it's all moving to better and better definition. And this particular TV, again, this is being launched at CES. They call it a bezel-less TV. It's not quite bezel-less, but it's 2.3 millimetres of a bezel, which is next to nothing. I mean, you've got computers, notebook computers, that have got a bezel thicker than 2.3 millimetres. So it's incredibly small in terms of bezel. So when you look at it effectively, you look at it as if there is no bezel there. The TV is also incredibly thin, 15 millimetres in thickness. So we are moving more and more towards those TVs that are thin, very thin, and the colour saturation and the quality is incredible. But then 8K, put 8K on top of that. I can't tell you a price for this TV at the moment, which means it's obviously an incredibly scary price, but this is where we're going. And things that we see released now, obviously it doesn't take long for them to be standard, normal price products on the shelves. If you buy it the day it comes out, it's going to be incredibly expensive, but it doesn't take long for them to filter down to normal price products as other new products come out. So 8K, bezel-less, this is where we're headed in TVs.
Now, Matthew, that means basically, of course, when we talk about 4K and 8K, we're talking about resolution, which is how many little pixels fit onto a screen. So as we head from 4K to 8K, it means that we can get bigger screens and not lose the resolution that you had with the 4K.
That's right. So basically what you're doing is you're packing more pixels in. When they talk about 4K, for example, a 4K screen, TV, monitor, whatever it might be, has got 3,840 pixels in one direction, 2,160 pixels in the other direction. So the 4K is just a rounding up of the 3,840. So basically it's referring to how many pixels are across the screen. 8K, as the name suggests, is 8,000. So again, it's not 8,000. It's basically 7,680 pixels across and 4,320 pixels high. But basically, you've got twice the number of pixels. And if you think about that, on a normal size screen that you might watch, a 65-inch screen, for example, the human eye is not good enough at a normal viewing distance to pick the difference between 8K and 4K. But what you can do when you get to the stage where you're getting 8K is you can have much larger TVs that you then still can't pick the pixels on there at a normal viewing distance. And that's what we're talking about, is getting larger and larger TVs.
Yes, that's where it's headed. Very interesting stuff.
Absolutely.
Now, Segway S-Pod is a manoeuvrable egg you can sit in. Now, that's a device for transportation. So you might like to explain that one, Matthew.
Well, the Segway, I love the Segway. I remember riding a Segway in America about probably 15 years ago, was the first time I had to go on a Segway, and I just thought the technology in the Segway was incredible. And since then, Segways are much more common, and you can ride on them in various theme parks and various resorts, etc. And the technology involved in a Segway to keep the device upright on only two wheels, something you couldn't have really done maybe 30 years ago. So the technology there is incredible. Segway have now come up with a step forward from that, where you don't have to stand on the device and lean forward and back to manoeuvre it. You can actually sit in a device, still only two wheels, side by side. You can sit in a device, it does look like a bit of an egg chair, and you use a joystick controller. So for people that are limited in their mobility, people that might be in wheelchairs, for example, people that want to get around, it's very difficult for them to get around, especially with four wheels, the smaller wheels in the front often get caught on the curb as you're moving up and down gutters, that type of thing. A Segway is incredibly versatile in where it can move and how it moves around. So to have a Segway for people to use with limited mobility that you sit in, I think is a huge breakthrough, and I can see a lot of places using these, maybe around airports, for example, around theme parks, resorts, even just out on the street. I can see these being very popular.
Yeah, well, that's a great thing. Now, you've got a situation around the world where people use obvious passwords, and this causes problems because people get hacked because they're using passwords that people have a guess at. And now there's a list being compiled of 25 of the worst passwords of 2019. Some of them are just incredibly obvious, aren't they?
Give me the top 5 on that list, Tony. What are the top 5 passwords that are used across the world?
Yeah, well, there's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then there's QWERTY, which refers to the QWERTY keyboard, QWERTY. Yep. Then we have the word password, believe it or not, and then another one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, there's 5.
So my favourite in there is the word password. People using the word password for a password. And this data is compiled from security breaches that happened across the world in 2019. And basically by looking at millions, literally millions of passwords that people have used, these were the top passwords they came up with. And really, I suppose the message for this particular topic is don't use obvious and simple passwords. If you want your information stolen, if you want your Facebook hacked, or you want someone to look at all your data or all your information, use these obvious passwords, because when someone's using a password hacking program, they take these top passwords. So the top 5 that you just rattled off are the top 5 passwords that hackers or people that are trying to get up to no good will use first of all to try and steal your information, attack your Facebook, whatever it might be. They're going to use those. So make it a little bit harder for them. Don't use those. So for a couple of quick lessons, if you like, use a long password. So 10 characters is something that I would recommend as a minimum. So the longer the password, the harder it is to break. The second thing is don't use a real word, because a lot of hackers use dictionary attacks. So they basically take lots of words out of the dictionary and they use those words in password manipulation or password attack. So basically, if you've got a word that's out of the dictionary, it's going to be much easier. So make up a word and then make sure it's got a combination of uppercase, lowercase and other characters. For example, exclamation mark, question mark, those type of other characters. That makes it harder for someone. So just follow a few simple rules like that and it makes it much harder for someone to break those passwords. Change your passwords regularly, use different passwords in different services. All of these are important things to do, but just don't make it so easy for them and use those simple passwords like the top 5 and other simple ones that you've just rattled off there.
Yes, and on this list of 25, my favourite password is password 1, and I have to say, I've never used it. Now, you're listening to Binjang 91.5 with Mathew Dickerson and Tech Talk and Tony Graham, and we'll be back with you next week. Thank you very much from Madrid in Spain, Matthew.
My pleasure, Tony.